seems like every year we get to see somebody take a crack at the Soulsborne series, formula. It's it's always like a hit or miss with those, right? Because some people don't really understand what makes those games enjoyable. Some people think it's the difficulty or the way the story is told and the lore is spread out through item descriptions and stuff. Others maybe just they have the difficulty and the story right, but they don't have the mechanics correct, right? They didn't quite nail it. They didn't make them tight enough or feel deliberate enough so that you think everything is your fault, right? And what some people don't understand is just like it's not just any one of those things. It's not just like one of those things in a vacuum. It's all of those things together in a sort of a ratio give and take type formula. I guess you either have a good like a decent difficulty, the story is peppered around here and there, but you've got these really great mechanics, or the mechanics are kind of stripped down, but and so is the difficulty, but the story is rich, and it's just a ratio. It's just some things over others, but like as long as you have those things in the right ratio, in the right order, you get these games that people come back to, or like people just compare to these other games that basically originated it, right? And I'm like glad to say I did come into this game a little skeptical. I didn't know about this game when it was coming out or anything. I just Carlos and I were talking about what we wanted to record, and we were looking at new games that were coming out, and we saw Thymesia, and we were like, I looked it up. I saw a trailer, and I was like, oh, this is a Souls-like type game. It looks like it, at least. And so we were both like, fuck it, It's not even going to be a full-price release, which is a bonus. So, yeah, why not? Let's try it out. Right? At the same time, I've also gotten Midnight Fight Express, and Rollerdrome was coming out, and I had to choose between these three games, and I got Midnight Fight Express and Thymesia. I did not get Rollerdrome. Maybe later, maybe I'll look into that, but so far these two games were pretty good. I will talk about Midnight Fight Express in a different video. I still need to get a little bit more footage of it. I've been I seldomly touched it as soon as I got it, and then I was like, I'm gonna wait till I beat the Messia, and then we'll come back to this, right? So I might stream it a little and record, my stream, and then get video off of that so I can talk about it. But for now, just know I am gonna talk about it. Don't worry. And I mean, it's like this is the first of the Souls-like this year, I think. The next one, which is the one that just came out today as of recording this video, Steel Rising, right? And then next year we're getting Lies of P. So it's great to see that this formula has gotten a little bit more nailed down by people that want to get into game development and stuff. I think all of these are also indie titles, right? I mean, Team 17 is pretty well known at this point, but I mean, it's still an indie title, and it's great. Like I love these indie titles. I've been just realizing how much I play indie titles more than I play AAA games at this point. And it's just it's just a little thing I'm noticing. But all that aside, I'm glad that we came out of this scary looking tunnel of this game like that just came out and wasn't really being talked about or anything at the time, and there was only like a couple trailers, or like one or like really a trailer probably, that I saw. That was the only trailer I saw, and that's all I had to go off about this game. Didn't read any articles, didn't read anything, and I'm glad I came out of that tunnel, that scary ass tunnel, being like, that wasn't that bad. I'd do it again. So yeah, if you can't tell, I have pretty positive things to say about this game. There's only like one or two things that are like negative in my opinion, and they're not even deal breakers. Like I even throughout the whole game, I figured out that those things are probably just leftover, just second natures from trying the other types of Souls games. Like it's just muscle memory that does not work for me in this game. But I'll get to that. Okay, so we'll talk about the progression. So, you do have stats, right? You have health, damage, and or health, strength, and plague, which is basically health, damage, magic, right? And then for each one of those, until you reach level 25, each level gives you a skill point. Sorry. It gives you a skill point, and you get, you get access to abilities that otherwise you wouldn't get, right? And these can range from more damage to a better dodge to dealing more damage when you parry, a better feather dart, or a lack of feather dart at all, and you can just use your cape to deflect stuff, or not deflect them, but interrupt certain attacks, to a teleport, gaining energy with each hit, gaining passive buffs. I didn't really look into those, I'll be honest. But there's a aggressive buff, a defensive buff, and then you have bleed, which is the one that I put points into, or like the one that I unlocked specifically for my claw was to deal bleed damage, and that helped me a lot. And then you have like some specific techniques that you can get, such as having more than one plague weapon. It's basically a nigiri counter from Sekiro, where like when somebody's gonna stab you, you can dodge forward and step on their blade, but instead of stepping on their blade, you kind of jump over them, and then you're in the air and you can do a drop attack. It's pretty good, pretty cool. And there's like a lot of stuff that I didn't get to mess around with, like, because you'll choose, because there's branching paths, so you'll choose one branch and the other one will be closed off to you. And if you find out that certain branches aren't working for you, you can just respec and put all your skill points back and then spend them again as many times as you want. There is no limit. There is no item that you need to get to do so. You can just do that and you're fine, which I thought was really neat, because I saw myself in the early stages of the game really thinking like, well, do I really want this? Do I really want that? Maybe I should try something else. And the first boss, which we'll get to, it really made me just take a step back and be like, okay, what do I want points into? What do I really want to just focus on right now? Right? And I just think the progression's really good. I think the only maybe significant problem with it is that it is very slow if you're not killing bosses. Like, if you're trying to level up through enemies alone, you're not really gonna do that. You'd have to like clear the area multiple times, which is the nature, but like you'd have to clear it multiple times to get like 1 or 2 levels, maybe. It's not really that worth it, because all the stronger enemies that do drop more memory are one kill enemies. You kill them off once and they're done. They don't come back. So, yeah, that's the problem when it comes to trying to level up or farm enemies to level up, is that you're gonna be stuck with all the little, you know, bait. I get what's the word? Just all the cheap shit, right? And yeah, you can restart levels to bring back the bigger enemies, but it's just kind of a hassle in my opinion. That's probably the only problem. Just how slow it works, or how slow you have to work to get your levels. Unless you're beating a boss, then you'll get levels pretty easily with that. And then there's also, you'll get more memory off of things that have dropped than you will, or things that are dropped in the world, than you will from enemies, if that makes sense. So, give and take rate. The combat is pretty, it's pretty good. It's pretty solid, honestly. It's not like at first you're thinking it's not much. You got a simple 3-hit attack with your light, or I guess your melee, right? You have a claw move that only hits once at first, and you have a charge that can grab an enemy and take their weapon, and you have a parry and a feather dart and a dodge, and that's it at first. So it seems really simple at first, but it gets deep. It gets real deep. I mean, the weapon steal alone is like a really fun thing in my opinion, because on top of being able to steal somebody else's weapon, later on in the game you can also store or carry a plague weapon on your own, which uses your energy, where the plague weapon that you steal doesn't take any energy. It's kind of there. The plague weapon that you store on your own, that's yours, takes energy, and you can use it as many times as you want, where the one that you steal you can only use once. So you could have up to potentially 3 plague weapons at once, once you unlock the 2 plague weapon limit, right? And that was like really fun to experiment with, because I got to mess with more weapons, and I really wanted to, but it was fun just to steal somebody's weapon, see what it, the moveset was. And by moveset, it really only has 2 moves. I mean, like, it'll either have a combo, a launch, or like a specific effect on you. Or I mean, I only say that because I didn't try every single weapon, and the ones that I leveled up to the point where they would have a second attack were next to none. There was only like 3 or 4 that I actually leveled up to that point. And there's a lot of plague weapons that you can unlock, and that I did unlock, but I just didn't use. But just the amount of things you can do with these weapons, and the amount of experimentation that you could do if you wanted to, is just amazing. I just thought it was great. That you could, the game starts you off with just one weapon, and you think that's how it's gonna go, and it's like, no, man. You have this one weapon, but you have an endless, quote unquote, sea over here of just like different weapons you can use and weapons you can steal and mix and match, and some of them aren't even really weapons. There was like an AoE shield that negated like all damage for a little bit, and then there was like a miasma thing, like you would like throw this cloud of, I don't know, poison or something, and just like deal damage over time. And there's just a lot of weapons in the game, but obviously none of them are just equipable that you can use whenever you want. They do have a cooldown, but you can use them however many times as you want, as long as you have energy, which paired with getting energy every time you attack an enemy, is you have unlimited plague weapons. Is great. I love it. Especially me, who only used a greatsword. And I'll tell you right now, you want to just kind of brute force your way through the game, get the greatsword. The launches are amazing. um, the boss fights are great. They're not bad. None of them are really bad. They're just different from each other, and possibly you could compare them to other fights that may be better or worse, right? But none of them are bad fights. I enjoyed every single one of them, and the only one that mildly pissed me off was the fucking old war boss fight. I fucking, oh my god. It's the first boss fight in the game, and they come out guns blazing. They're like, you either learn this game or you're not getting past the first area. You're just stuck here, you know. And you have to go in there with only like 4 levels on you probably, and like 2 upgrades to your healing, which I'll get to healing as well right now. But these boss fights are great, right? They're very simple to learn the patterns of, but you know they do have variations to the patterns, and you still have to guess which pattern they're gonna be, or you still have to react to which pattern they're gonna do. And then it's not like every boss fight is the same, right? They're different. Like I said, they have a couple of gimmick boss fights or set pieces, which would be the Sound of the Abyss and the Fool's Tree God. Those two are like probably in the scope of the game the weakest, but they're not bad. So essentially, one of them is a Bed of Chaos fight, and the other one is a Dragon God fight. And if for those uninitiated, the Bed of Chaos is just a tree that you fight, and you have to hit like 3 specific points, and then that's the end of the fight, right? And the sort of the same thing with Dragon God is you have to sneak around an area, kind of use 3 ballistas, and then you win the fight. So these 2 boss fights were pretty much that. Not exactly the same thing. It's just that's the closest thing I can compare it to. Where Sound of the Abyss isn't like that one's probably the one I thought was the worst one until I figured it out, which was the reason I kept dying in one hit. Like after the second phase was just like I kept staying in the corners, and the ceiling would collapse, and that would lead to an instant death. But it wouldn't warn me until I wasn't in the corner of the map. And then I saw the floor, and it did tell me that there was, a danger there. And I was like, well, why didn't you say that before? But whatever. And then after I figured that out, it wasn't that big of a problem. But yeah, all you've got to do is hit the boss's weak points a little bit, until you break them, and then reduce its health all the way to 0. Get into the second phase. Kind of just hide in a corner, or like in the center of the stage there's like this little crevice that you can get into. Just hide there pretty much until the boss does its thing. It'll tire itself out basically, and then you can kill it. And then the Fool's Tree God is just go around, break some cysts. There's enemies in the arena, but you can take them out if you want, or just run past them. It's better to fight them, or like at least one of them. It's like a mid boss in the boss fight, which is stupid. But yeah, you just see that, keep on going, and eventually you'll reach a clearing. You'll jump on the boss and kill it. That's kind of it. It really like also weak, like I said, but it wasn't frustrating. It was just weak. Then every other boss fight after that was just like either an endurance test because they had a lot of health, or it was more parry everything and then just capitalize on the claw basically, or launch them with a great sword, because most of them are human-sized boss fights, which is great for me because I could launch them and then just take advantage of the time that they're on the ground to either heal or go in and do some more damage and claw them to death. So it's great. I think the healing could have done something different. I don't know. I mean, it wasn't bad, but having 3 forms of healing, which you like, having access to 3 forms of healing but only being able to use one, right, is sort of an interesting like choice to give the player. But you're choosing from basically standard healing. Whatever you think the standard healing is, that's what it is, right? And it's like the mid grade, right? You have medium amount of healing. You have the medium amount of heals that you can carry, and the medium amount of start time, right? Then you have the long form heal, which once you inject it, it's active for a certain amount of time, or really more, a certain amount of health regeneration. Once it reaches that threshold of health regeneration, it's it's a, no matter if it didn't if it didn't reach the number it should have, as long as it's already healed that amount of health, it's going away. It doesn't matter if it reached that amount of health. It just needs to regen that amount of health, right? Overall, it lasts the longest, it heals the most, but it kind of takes the longest to also inject, right? And then you have the short one, the fast one, right? And it seems really enticing at first because it's like, oh yeah, I can heal really fast and I have the most amount of heals, but it heals the least amount. So it's like, why would I use that? You know what I mean? Unless you're really good at like just keeping, or maybe only getting hit a couple times and then just quick heal and then parry and back into business. But for me, the one that stole the show, the one that made me get through the entire game, was the long form healing. That one was the best one because I could preemptively heal and then just risk it for the biscuit. If they were about to die, just go in, do attacks, not give a shit, because I was still healing, and just get the phase over it with, whether it was the first or second phase, and just that way I could learn the fight faster. I think that's really all, like, the positives. I don't like, overall the game is super polished, little jank in some of the animations, but like in gameplay and all that, it's pretty freaking polished. It's pretty good. I enjoyed my time with it. I was able to get all the endings. Luckily they made that just easy to do, since you could all you had to do was beat the final boss, go do your ending, right, whatever. Once you do that, it'll ask you if that was the truth or not. If you say no, you can go back and beat the final boss again, right? And then you could choose another ending. If you have beaten all the bosses, you'll be able to choose how to answer a question, and then you'll get different endings based off of that. And I was able to do that. It took me about after learning how to fight the final boss, it took me about 20 to 30 minutes, more or less, to get all the other endings, and we were fine. So, yeah, this is the first time I've gotten like fucking 5 endings in a Soulsborne game, like done in like an after, or like in a recording session. I thought that was great. And I mean, yeah, like I think the bosses are great, and if I had to talk about like which ones I liked, spoiler, right, for some of these, I mean, not really, just the final boss I think is the spoiler. But so Uldur is probably the best boss fight in the game. maybe not early on, but when you look at it in retrospect, you're like, yeah, that was a pretty good boss fight. It teaches you how to play the game. It's like the hardest thing you're gonna like. If you can beat Odur, you're gonna beat the rest of the game. Simple as that. And he just looks really cool. I liked his design, and you kind of get to fight him twice, which is cool. The second best boss fight, I think, would be Erd. I liked her design as well. I thought her glyphs and her, patterns were fun to learn. And her second phase was fun as well. And, it's like I had to adapt. I had to change my playstyle entirely to fight her. Because I was so used to just launching people and, going in on them while they were on the ground and do stuff to them. Take more health off and all that. Where with Erd, I couldn't really do that because she was so fast. So as soon as I'd go in and take a little bit of health off, she would get up and then just start fucking me up. Just as fast as shit. She'd just be like, ba 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 ba, and I'm like, oh god, So that I think that would make her my second favorite boss fight, and I guess I would actually put it tied with Erd, but I'll list it as my number 3, and that's spoiler. The fight with yourself. You fight you fight yourself, and I'm not sure if what level you're at affects how strong it is, or what skills you got affect what skills your clone gets. It's just a cool fight because you have to adapt because it has 2 phases. Both of the phases are the same, in terms of moveset and everything. It's just he changes weapons often. So when you can only carry 2 or maybe 3 plague weapons, he can carry them all. Right? And it's just a really fun boss fight. I think the only problem with that boss fight is I think the audio is broken or something. Because during a certain section of the boss fight, either when I would get hit or when they would get hit, the music would kind of just start over on and it was an abrupt loop that would start over every time one of us got hit. It was really dumb. It's I've been going on a lot about the things that I really like and everything that I've enjoyed about the game so far. But I will now let you know the 2 things that I did not like. And again, they're not deal breakers, but they're just personal things to me, I guess. Like I said, I had to unlearn all the other Souls games for a little bit to play this one. And that's the dodge is practically useless. You're gonna be using the dodge mainly for traversal. It feels faster than just sprinting around, and that's it. That's the main one, is that I feel the dodge is really weak. Even if you upgrade it, you're upgrading from a short to long dodge. You do a short dodge, and then if you dodge immediately right after, you get a long dodge, but then you have a big recovery time, right? Or you get multiple short dodges, which sounds good if you want to panic roll, but then again, you have to deal with the long recovery after you're done with mashing your dodges. And if you're mashing dodges, panicking, you're probably going to run out of them before the enemy starts doing their attack if you're panicking at that point. So it might backfire. You might get smacked in the face. So I thought that was a really almost a deal breaker for me until I started really relying on the parry and the launcher. And the other thing that I did not like, it's more I would have wanted to see more. It's not really oh, I don't like this or I hate this. It's just yeah, I think the game's a little short. I think you could have done with maybe 1 or 2 more areas, or trimming the fat on some of these. Because some of the missions are basically repetitive. It's just you're seeing the same map 2 to 3 times, right? Some of them submissions take you to different areas in the map that you were not looking at before, which is fine. But then there's another submission in that same area you just unlocked, just backwards. What I would have liked to see was maybe either make the areas larger, because they're pretty small and sweet, which is fine. I get for what the game went for what the game ended up being, that's fine. But in hindsight, whatever, I think these levels could have been a little bit bigger, or added maybe one or two more areas, and sort of take out the fat in these. Just reach the end of this map so that you can progress the submission, or like end a submission, or go back to the start of the level from the lowest point of the map so that you can end this submission. Like that's eh. You're running back and forth the same level 3 or 4 times, maximum like 4 times, maybe 5, and minimum like 3 times. But you're seeing the same map, it's the same enemies. There's maybe 1 or 2 different enemies that are just like the sub bosses, and it's just really repetitive. That is my only problem. I think I'm done talking about it now. They're not deal breakers though, because if you do it the first time, you just doing everything the first time, it's not that big of a problem. I can see myself having a problem with it if I failed to do the fucking all 5 endings, and I messed up, and then I said yes, and so now I have to do everything all over again. Like, I could see that being a little bit of a problem. But if you just run through everything first playthrough, get all the 5 endings, I get it's not a problem. It's not. You can do all 5 endings in one playthrough, and I think that's great. So, all that being said, I think Thymesia is great. If anything I said, about this game sounds appealing to you, right? Or anything you've seen on screen looks cool to you, I would recommend it. It's not even a full price game. It's $30. I think I said that in the beginning of the video. It's not a bad deal. It's a really good deal for what you're probably going to be struggling at first, maybe, depending. But it's a decent challenge, and you're going to have fun with it, I think. I mean, personal opinion aside, I think people are going to, be okay with this. Right? It's not a bad game. It's a good game. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm Kuma. This is Sesh. If you enjoyed, leave a like. Comment what you want to see next. I'll get to it eventually. You like us, you like what we do, subscribe. Check out the Let's Play on In Need of Jerks if you're interested. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.